Hello, good day and good afternoon. So today we're gonna discuss about design thinking. All right. So welcome everyone, and I hope you will have a very good day today as I share my slides on design thinking. All right. So this is design thinking for our ES19 Technopreneurship 101 for engineering subject in the university, and I organized this presentations, but I have plenty of sources, of course. No? So I would like to acknowledge the sources of my materials, Professor Rico Camus and Professor Richard Cruz from the Asian Institute of Management, and of course our mentor, our trainer in Navigato, Mr. Carlo Valencia from the Startup Training Philippines, who have been doing a lot of trainings for our startups in Navigato or TBI. And of course, Jean Lidka, the professor or writer of Harvard Business Review and the Harvard Business Publishing. So we have various sources, but mainly these are coming from Professor Rico Camus and Carlo Valencia. And some of the inputs, knowledge that were gained from various sources from our professors, as well as from the Royal Academy of Engineering. So this is design thinking, right? So for this session, participants or students will be able to apply design thinking as a framework as well as a mindset for projects and problem solving. We'll be able to learn how to define and ideate. Define means how to create customer personas, and ideate how to generate lots of ideas, then quickly decide on what particular idea to test out in the market. So we have a lot of things that we'll be able to cover now in this design thinking subject. So for our agenda for today, we'll have some 2 to 3 um, presentations, chapters, and yeah, I'll be talking about design thinking overview, empathy, personas, and interviewing, and some adjacent exercises. All right, so please bear with me as we begin. All right, let's go about the design thinking introduction. But first and foremost, why do we need to have design thinking? Why design thinking? Of all other things that we can discuss in T101, why we need to have to discuss why design thinking? So here are some statistics that will blow your mind, no, in terms of startups, statistics, and even the new product introductions in highly organized companies or established companies already existing out there. So it's been noted here that 95% fail, no, for new product introductions. And we know that new products introduced to the market are very risky and has a very high failure rate. So this is according to the study of the Harvard Business School, Professor Clayton Christensen. So there are over 30,000 new products introduced every year, and 95% of them all fail. That's a big statistics right there. So we have to take a note of that statistics and learn from those failures that they encountered. So some of the reasons, or other reasons, are these statistics that we have here. 72% of the new product and service innovations failed to deliver on expectations. And the number one startup or mistake of startups that they make or the startups make is building something that nobody wants. So think about that 30,000 new products introduced. So they keep on pushing products to market, and yet nobody wants the products that are introduced in the market. Why is this happening? Right. So this is one of the things that we're gonna discuss this afternoon or today. So 75% of companies can no longer reliably sustain profitable growth, no? Because so there are no products that are actually introduced to the market that people really want to buy. And so these are the things that we're gonna look into. And I think I'm very stuck with the number one mistake that startups fail, because we encourage you guys, students, to actually start your own businesses, start your own business that may be technology based or in agriculture using technology. And here in Navigato, we always like actually encourage, no? So students to begin just to explore, because for a very long time, the problem we have in the Philippine universities is we're stuck to the idea of parents telling us to really study hard, and when you have a very good grade or good grades in your university life, you are kind of sure to have a very good job. Well, that remains true, no? But during this pandemic, for example, even if you graduated from that class and companies are putting on hold the recruitment, so nobody gonna go to a company, so to work for, and you're left with the option. What are the options that you have? No? So either to have to wait for the pandemic to become over, or you find your own opportunities that you can work on, like starting your own business. So design thinking now is part of the process wherein you guys, as the students, may be able to like reconsider first before doing any new product introductions. So make sure, no, just to make sure that when we introduce a product in the market, then we will have a product that might be very interesting, no, for the people. Okay. So this is just a poll, but I would presume that uh, it becomes very necessary, for any business organizations to have new products launched every year. Now, like, I remember while I was in the industry, I was working in Philips Semiconductors before. Now it's called Nexperia. It's also still located in the same location in Cabuya, Laguna. Every year we always launch new products. No? So different factories launch new products for certain customers, right? So this is very important for us to allow to grow the company. And if we came late to the market, that's where the struggle for the market share will be. But of course, I understand that the answer here would be yes. No, so I think just leave your answer there on the comment section, and I know that you'll be answering yes. So if you are into a business, if you're MSME or a startup business, it's very important to understand the new product introduction processes. We always talk about design for manufacturability, that exists in the industry, so we are kind of focused in terms of the manufacturability of the product that we introduce. All right. So we go to the part of defining what is design thinking. So design thinking is understanding the end user's need better in order to discover the real problems. This is according to Nilofer Erdobil, or the founder and CEO of Spring 2 Innovation. And so I think it's based in the US. So again, understanding end users' need better in order to discover the real problems. So we have to look into the end users, or the case for us, the customers need. So that we can actually serve or solve the real problems. So this is one of the definitions of design thinking. So the other thing is that, so this is from Prof. Rico. So this is design thinking is a human-centered approach to problem solving and innovation. And if you look at the three area here, so this is actually a tool, right, to guide us. So applies the creative tools of design to deliver new breakthroughs or disruptive innovations. So if you look at these three concentric circles here that you see on the screen, there are three circles, and one is that it talks about user desirability. The other one is technology feasibility, and lastly, business viability. So we start with the user desirability because we know that products or customers or end users are hooked in terms of looking at products that are really desirable, right? So for these concentric circles here, the idea or the end goal is that we need to strike a balance between the three areas. And so we need to have a product that is desirable, that is technically feasible to develop and launch to the market. And of course, there's a business, no, aspect for that. This is somehow will um, really get a strong market penetration in terms of product launches, in terms of making the products available to the market, to the consumers. So we need to strike a balance. But I want to discuss first about user desirability, because these are the three major items that we're gonna have to remember when we build our first product prototype going towards hopefully launching our own product. So user desirability. So I so from the word desire itself, no, so that's something that you really want. That is something that you really like. You couldn't sleep until you get it, or something like that, right? So it's a product that it's full of ohs and ahs, and yeah, okay, like capture your imagination or capture your desire to buy the product. So there are so many examples that we can think of. But I want to highlight one of the things that is really happening in the US, like for example, the brand Apple brand, right? So the Apple brand has captured the imaginations of those consuming public in the US, but not only in the US, but in the world. And so because they have developed product that not only is very cool, but the design in itself is very, very disruptive and introduce a breakthrough innovation in terms of separating themselves from the original mobile phones. And so before Apple, there was of course Nokia, and Nokia, of course, the world leaders mobile phone manufacturer in late 1990s, going towards the early 2000s, and then Apple was able to like compete with Nokia by then when they introduced the first Apple iPhones, no, in 2007. And there were a series of products that they launched that the American public loved it, and the entire world kind of understand that Apple has really introduced some cool and desirable products. So when we look into the technology of feasibility, of course, they were able to develop a of course on the iPhone. No? So in the iPhone series, they are able to deliver like the screen that is really really good, no? Like for the iPads, and not only for the iPhones. Also, they have really expanded these product lines into these different baga, um, other product lines that are, of course, in technology they are similar. So when we talk about technology feasibility, I remember that there are startups who like dream big, but then when they began doing their own product line, the technology is not there yet. So we've not been able to like really make possible, like going away from the present mobile phones to like the hologram. So it's not really entirely possible right now, so to do that. But there are already concepts made out there. And I remember there are startups we have kind of incubated before, and there was this startup team that likes to introduce a new product, but unfortunately, none of them in the startup team are actually like into the field of electronics. No? So the founders, like kind of all of them are ICT, and then they need electronics guy, and they cannot find one. So it's not technically feasible for them to develop the products. But of course, the obvious answer for that case would be to get these or somebody who would be willing to help out, in terms of developing the product. So in terms of the team formation, so you need to make sure that somebody will be on board in terms of solving the specific needs. Now, business viability is when we talk about like, is there a market opportunity for this product that we're gonna launch? And so we need to ask ourselves who are our customers who would be willing to pay for this product that we gonna launch. So we need to strike a balance between the three, right? So we need to start basically with the user desirability, and itself in the word user. We need to ask ourselves who will be the users of our product, or what are the problems that the users encounter, who are like using these existing products, and how can we improve these existing products. So it's like understanding more on the users rather than focusing on the solutions that we're gonna introduce to the market. So these are two different things that we need to understand and focus. So understanding the end users, we mentioned about or earlier ago, that we need to be user focused or customer focused in terms of the process here in the design thinking process. So this is about shifting our perspective as well in terms of how we do things before and how we do things using the design thinking process or principles. So before, the typical approaches would be my expertise alone. No? So what I can do, that's it. No. If I'm very good in electronics, I build things, electronic products, and then launch it to the market. And you know the statistics already that 95%, over 90% of the new product introductions fail. No, so from among the 30,000, because we stick to the typical approaches of our expertise, not knowing the desires of our customers or end users. So we are kind of believe sa sariling produkto. No? So these are always been the main problem. And I think a lot of students or people can relate to this, because when we do thesis or research proposals, we kind of think just follow our own thoughts, because that's the thing. No? So there's nothing wrong about really working on my expertise, but we try to shift from the typical approach to the design thinking approach, wherein our expertise will now match to the user-centered approach. So meaning to say, we have a very good talent or skill set in electronics, but we want to make sure that we also consider now the users. Now, what are the thoughts about the product that we kind of try to design? So before, it doesn't happen that way. So we just build things the way we want the things to be built. So right now, what we want to do is like really consider those end users or the customers. What are their inputs? What are their idea, or how to improve the product even better? So we keep on learning from the customers or the end users themselves, and then getting into or learn from those inputs and then integrate them into the product that we want to design, right? So those are things that we want to include. I think a very good example is that those like hospitals that they're also building, like for example the new hospital here. So take into considerations what are the thoughts of the doctors themselves in terms of the building structure, or the rooms, or what are the equipments or the laboratories needed to be put in place in terms of raising up or building a hospital. And after all, the doctors themselves will be working there. So it is that perspective that we want to encourage, in terms of shifting, our internal processes, our personal processes. So if you're gonna launch product or services, we make sure that we get feedback from the customers or the users themselves, and learn all the time. The learning doesn't stop there, as we continue to really evolve our products, to keep our products evolving. Okay, so there's this one example here, and for a very long time, um, a lot of kids, actually based on one of the studies, a lot of kids are very afraid in terms of using the MRI, or the magnetic resonance imaging test, because and also even CT scan. So it looks scary, and so what the doctors do in the hospital is that they have to like allow or require the children to lie down, and actually if they can't, like if they're not relaxed, they have to sedate the kids, so that they will sleep and then conduct the test. I think that's the one of the case studies here from one of the hospitals in the US. So there is a statistics that 80 to 95% of patients under the age of 9 require sedation in order to undergo this scanning process. No? So MRI, because this MRI, I've not been through the MRI. It makes really loud noises. No, the machines really make noises. So that's the problem with the present MRI. Now, as a design thinking process, what do you think would be the solution to this? So this kind of like, if this is done real live, I have to ask questions from the participants. But since this is a recording video, so put your before you proceed to the answer, put your answers to the comments section now. Right, I'll give you a minute or less than a minute to answer this while I'm trying to discuss. So this is the problem really. MRI is scary. Like you're in a place that children doesn't like to go to the hospitals, right? So if you see a machine, and then if you're there already, that makes loud noises, so it frightens the young patients. So there are people who went through the design thinking process. So what can be done such that kids, if they go to the hospital, they will not be afraid or even scared to enter the door of this where the machine is located. So what can be done? So I hope you've thought about this, but the solution they introduced is that they made the MRI, the room of the where the machine is located, such a playful place. So they painted the wall, they painted so they went through the design thinking process. They were asking themselves, so what can be done? So they end up with like a room that is filled with decorations. It looks like a playground already. That the MRI machines would look like it's no longer a real machine, like it's a playground. So there's this when kids enter the room, like wow, like kind of amaze them, because it's painted in kids friendly colors, right? So it kind of really solved the problem of students going into this particular place. I think this is a dedicated MRI. There are children's hospital in the US that are really like they attend to patients, to the kids, as their only patients, also children hospital. So they made this as beautiful as they can to make this enjoyable experience, not frightening experience for the kids. So actually, from the 90% of the statistics that they reduce this significantly, to very small figure that children now enjoys going to this place, because not only the space is now painted, but actually they already include a lot of like toys going around this part of the MRI. So if you look at the MRI, it looks like, what is this, like kind of a train or something, like a car or something like that. So kids really love avoided those frightening situations. So the hospitals made progress about this, and this concept now were applied to other children hospital. So all the MRIs, all the rooms containing the MRI were redecorated such that they look appealing to the kids to go inside, even. So that's where the design thinking process were also applied. And I just want to make sure that this will have an audio, as I share this. Again, I stop share, but I will have to reshare it. Right. Okay, I need the sound. Okay. We'll try to look into the design thinking and innovation at Apple. So get this video as well.
Design Thinking and Innovation at Apple, a Harvard business case that won 2013 ECCH Case Award. The authors of the business case are Harvard Business School professor Stephen Tomke and independent researcher Barbara Feinberg. The summary and the presentation are created by Lee Wei, Technology Commercialization Manager from Agency for Science, Technology and Research, Singapore. The full business case is available from Harvard Business Review. In 2012, Apple became the most valuable public traded company in history, with $600 share price, $620 billion market capital, and $100 billion annual sales. Apple's success was not just the result of strategic moves or innate sense of market timing. It is a surprising consistency in the way the company worked. Simply put, the Apple way. First, design thinking. Those of us on the original Macintosh team were really excited about what we were doing. The result was that people saw a Mac and fell in love with it. There was an emotional connection. That, I think, came from the heart and soul of the design team. Bill Atkinson, member of Apple Macintosh development team. In the mid-1970s, computers were typically housed in discrete locations and only used by specialists. Design is consistency in the way the company worked. Simply put, the Apple way. First, design thinking. Those of us on the original Macintosh team were really excited about what we were doing. The result was that people saw a Mac and fell in love with it. There was an emotional connection. That, I think, came from the heart and soul of the design team. Bill Atkinson, member of Apple Macintosh development team. In the mid-1970s, computers were typically housed in discrete locations and only used by specialists. The notion of computer as a tool for individual work was unimaginable in the 1970s. To help people love their equipment and the experience of using it, the level of complexity needed to be reduced dramatically. Apple's product starts with design, from people's need and want. The design of the product is not limited by technology. The engineers are pushed to use the same kind of creativity and innovation to make it happen. Design is very well thought through. It is beyond fashion. The capacity and technology to build it is not commoditized, and no compromise for the functionalities. This is design thinking. A combination of user desirability, technology possibility, and market viability. Smallest of details are scrutinized, not just the appearance of the product, but also its functions, features, and packaging. The design team kept on going deep until they found the key underlying principle of a problem, then built on it. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. That simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Second, strategy and execution. You can see a lot just by observing. Yogi Berra, Major League Baseball player and manager. Apple's history began in 1976. It launched the first personal computer, Apple II, in 1978. In 1981, IBM entered the market with its PC that can be cloned. Since 1985, Apple's market share kept declining. The board of Apple axed Steve Jobs. In the following 11 years, products and projects at Apple proliferated in consequence of various strategies, and many of them failed. The technology department process became more traditional and resembled approaches found at other companies. Process makes you more efficient, but innovation comes from people calling each other at 10:30 at night with a new idea. It comes from saying no to 1,000 things to make sure we don't get on the wrong track or try to do too much. By Steve Jobs. Everything changed after Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997. Decisions were made to achieve the excellence in execution. Stopped licensing program, eliminated 70% of new projects. Product line was reduced from 15 to only 3. Website was launched for direct sales. Sophisticated marketing kept product development complete secret. Shut down facilities and moved them abroad. Inventory was reduced from months to a few days. Apple also adopted the platform strategy for its products. They designed the initial product as a platform with an architecture that accommodated the development and the production of the derivative products. Customers' experience was integrated into Apple's product design and development. A lot of it empirically drives with iterative customer involvement. Apple worked intimately with manufacturers and assured that their product be completely attuned to customers. Apple's product always evolves. The importance of design is a motivation to continued innovation rather than a static approach that assumes a single conclusion. Third, CEO as chief innovator. The really great person will keep on going and find the key underlying principle of the problem and come up with a beautiful, elegant solution that works. Steve Levy, author of The Perfect Thing. Company founders essentially imprint their organizations with their own personality characteristics, and Apple Jobs is no exception. Steve Jobs and Apple seem like interchangeable terms. Steve Jobs' drive for perfection was Apple's drive for beautiful, elegant products and its superior operations. Steve Jobs' vision held that Apple's products were to be personal tools for individuals instead of enterprise solution. Steve Jobs also had total hands-on involvement in decision-making, from strategy to product and service design to packaging. Fourth, bold business experimentation. The greatest artists like Dylan, Picasso, and Newton risked failure. And if we want to be great, we've got to risk it too. Steve Jobs. When everyone was moving online, Apple decided to move into retail and created every Apple store with the same painstaking focus on details. Against conventional wisdom of open platform, collaboration, community design, transparency, Apple insisted to develop and integrate its own hardware, software, and keep product launches secret. Apple was also constantly learning, adapting, and evolving, from the design of array of colors to black and white color theme, from the closed developer community to the open developer platform, from no compatibility for other OS to Windows compatibility. In summary, the root of Apple's success was a set of principles with a deep commitment to great products and services at its core. Design thinking, clear development strategy and execution, its CEO as chief innovator, and the rational courage to conduct bold business experiments. For more presentations about innovation management and technology commercialization, please visit www.innodiary.org.
All right, that's the design thinking in Apple, right? So why Apple? Because I do really believe that they really made a very great effort in terms of integrating design thinking. And I think even before the design thinking was coined, not that this has really been made popular these days, is that even those years that really Steve Jobs have kind of went into the journey of this process. So he was already like trying to create a product that's beautiful, like really desirable to the users, uh, feasibility wise, the technology they made, the technology push, the technology. So they made a strong effort there, and as well as there was this business viability. So if you look at those concentric circles, then pasok na pasok, no, ang Apple, and that's why people love Apple in the US. No, so you would, I think you've heard of like product launches now of Apple, that when they schedule a market launch, a launch already of the product, like the iPhone in the market, you would hear news that as early as like 1 day, 2 days before, people were already lining up not to get the first Apple product, the first iPhone, no, from the Apple Store. Remember, well, where people before the pandemic, people were going online, but really Steve Jobs made sure that there is this physical space, no, for people to go to. No, that's where the like people fall in line to wait for the for to wait, not to really compete to get the first product. No. So that also happens here in Butuan. No? So for example, the latest iPhone 12 version, you cannot just like in the iPhone store, Apple store here in Robinsons, I think, like you wanted to get one, but then there's no available really model, because even before you can make an order online, it's now already been bought. No? So I'm not really endorsing Apple. No, I don't own the company. I don't have really interest in Apple, but it's just that amazing experience. No? That's why other companies tried to follow suit. You know, Samsung, Huawei, they try to develop based on the platform that was introduced by Apple for quite some time now. So from the very start, the iPhone was like developed in 2007, and now 14 years we have these different cool products that are being year in and year out being innovated. So every year they release new set of iPhones, improvements from the previous now, and even the iPads. Now the iPads are very cool as well. So technology really is like these companies introduce the market cool products. And during that time, it's mentioned that the market capitalization of Apple is just around 300 million US dollars, but right now it's around around over a 2 trillion US dollar market cap. That's so big, so big. So this company is really, really been growing, every year. Even Steve Jobs is no longer there. So the people that we organizers are still there, and then still the Apple company is still there. No, it's so the other company that I wish to profile is that the Tesla. No? So they've also introduced a car that so many people in the US desired to have one. So instead of the traditional cars, from Ford or General Motors, Tesla was able to capture the imagination, the hearts of so many Americans that is now actually been all over the world, to have their own Tesla, because Tesla, of course, they solve the problems in terms of introducing pollution. They have very cool electronics features, so doors that are really cool to open, something like that. So they have really expanded, into that category. We're in so great product that they have launched that every people they've been able to like desire that product, or just like the Apple iPhones. So desirability is really a thing. So that's why it's very important to have a process, to have this design thinking process. So at the end of the day, the users themselves will buy the product if they're willing to spend money in the product. Even if that product is very expensive, the Tesla Model S is 100,000 US dollars. It's around 5 million pesos. The typical price of, I think, of a car in the US is around 40, 50,000 US dollars. And Model S is at the high end. No? But already the Tesla has already started manufacturing their own Model 3, which are less expensive, around 30,000 US dollars. But still, for us here, it's expensive. No, but in big countries like China, so who are into the like trying to really revamp the automotive industry by introducing battery vehicles. So Tesla is competing with other brand names in the US, in the China right now. But they have really introduced cool products that before you can't imagine uh, that this might be even possible. So the battery car before, it's like slow, it perceived to be slow, dry, it's not cool. But now Tesla is even introduced that kind of technology. So we go to this part we're in. What can design thinking do for you and me? So design thinking can actually help you redesign the products and services that you offer to the end user or your customers that you presently have, if you have already the business. But if you don't have the business yet, it's very good to look and understand it in advance. And yeah, reimagine customer experiences. If we change, disrupt, or innovate the product that we have right now, how can we further improve this product so that the end users will really have a very good experience with it? So that can be a product or mobile apps. So we've been talking about the experience. The experience you have. We've talked about the experience you have in terms of the differences between the Shopee and the Lazada online platforms in terms of shopping, and many think that Shopee right now has the edge over Lazada. And to think about that, 10 years ago, Lazada was the first one to be here in the Philippines. But in terms of market penetration right now, it's Shopee that has stronger customer base now. And why is that? So you yourself were actually telling me that customer experiences are different in Shopee compared to Lazada. Like in Lazada, you have delivery problems. It takes so long to deliver the product. It takes a month to have the product. But Shopee, your product is like 3 4 days, because we are in the south now. They have to be delivered by airline, so the product is already here by a week or so, no? So less than even a week. So that is customer experience that are changed, no, because of this um, customer focused the customer focused companies. So it's entirely different, and they're getting a good traction customer user base, no, because of these um, innovations, reimagining customer experience that they actually done, no. So that's how they made it improve. So enable your digital transformation if you're not yet online, so that will help you also make your presence felt online. And I think marketing today, because of the pandemic, though, so people are really shifting towards digital. No? So building their own websites, or even in the Facebook page. No? So building your own Facebook page, your presence, online presence, so that really you can still continue get customer base, right? So pursue breakthroughs and disruptors. This will allow you, no, to for a company, not to pursue breakthroughs and disruptors, like develop disrupting products, no? So breakthrough products that you can really launch to the market. These are some of the things, though, and I think commonly the first two or three are really. I think all of these, no, are very important. No, if you want your company to really like separate yourselves your competition, so it's about really talking to your customers. That's why in those platforms that I mentioned, so they continue to ask customers how are they, how are their deliveries. No? So there will be service that will be thrown to consumers or the customers. How are they doing? Because they want to improve their services. No? So I think Lazada hopefully have learned something, no? If not directly from Shopee, but to the customer they have right now. No? So I still order in Lazada. So I'm not endorsing any of the platforms, but kind of, yeah. So somehow you see the difference between those two platforms, right? So some keywords here. It will actually transform, no, insights and data into actionable ideas. Create the new implement solutions with business impact and more effectively, faster, more effectively. No? So really, those companies who have applied these principles have actually been able to really improve their products and services. Right? Okay. So um, this is one very important thing that design thinking is mindset. So we have to change our perspective, our mindset in terms of developing new products. And so it's been said here that only after we have enough understanding about our customers, we only build and launch. So if you look at this figure here, we have 1 2 3 4. That is one idea, two build, three launch, launch, or four learn. Many people, not so immediately, they're very excited with their idea. So they built the prototype of their idea, and then they go to Taiwan and Shenzhen, and then ask people there to mass produce their products. And when they were able to mass produce their products, and they start launching the product now into the market, and the sad thing is that nobody's even buying it, so nobody's buying it, even buying it, and that's a kind of a failure already. Because if you don't have people, customers paying for it, then you're stuck there, right? So you launch a product and nobody's even willing to buy, and it becomes a very, very problematic. No, it's a big problem for you guys, because you spend money already building the product, and then you made loans and such that, and then you failed. No, and why is that? Because we don't have enough understanding. First and foremost, this is the primary reason why many companies, statistically, many companies did not even launch or develop a product that many people would love it, desire it. because they don't have enough understanding about the customers or end users that they are targeting. So the suggestion is for the design thing is that before we really begin building um, serious products, we need to go through the process wherein we will be able to really understand and learn from our and target end users or customers if we're still trying to build. Now, if you have a customer right now, if you have a business right now, what you want to do is that try to understand your customers or even identify who your customer really are. Who are those people who are willing to buy your product? So you need to understand and go through that process so that you'll be able to really make a product and or service that is really desirable at their end. So now learn from it. So what are your customers' feedback? That's where the part we try to like ask people questions or do service. It's not easy, but then that is really, really required, or if you want your business to kick off. So customer feedback is always be like an ongoing process. If you deliver something, you know, are you satisfied with the service? Yes or no? Are you ready? Are you willing to like um, refer to this product to other people? When they say yes, that's great. But when they say no because they have bad experience with the product, then that's it. No, so that's the end of it. You cannot have, you cannot expand um, your customer base. So that becomes a problem. And design thinking as a framework, we need also to understand that we go through this no, cycle. So it's about understanding how we work in our business, right? So we need to look into this framework here. So there are three certain parts like discover, design, and deliver. Those are three Ds. You have to remember discover, design, and deliver. So what are the parts that are included here? When in the discover part, you need to understand ends in insight. So this is where the process of empathy about putting ourselves into the shoes of our customers. So this is where the part. So we'll try to discuss this in detail now in the succeeding slides. So empathy and then define those things that what we need to develop. Now this is now the baseline where we start to do adjacent because of the given data that we collected during the empathy process, like doing the interviews. This is where the part of the adjacent comes in. So this is a baseline wherein you use those data that you define for you to be able to ideate and design a product that would need or match the customer. And then that's where the part when you're done with the adjacent process, you're thinking about the solution you have for the problem of the customers. Then there's a type wherein you build your prototype, right? And then you deliver um, in terms of the delivery, that is where you test your prototype. You don't build immediately large number of figures, no, large number of product. So, for example, there was one startup that my cousin was trying to build before, in I think before the pandemic, and then he looked into the process wherein into the customer. His proposed business is into the home service car wash business. No? So home service car wash, and then he tried to conduct a survey. So like there's a very good case about this. And so he asked those friends uh, and co-workers, other friends from other previous companies that he worked for. He asked if those people would be willing to like have their um, cars cleaned at their own house rather than for them going out. No, so because people spend time no outside. No, you have to wait for the other cars to finish. It takes some time. No, maybe you stay in the car wash. The problem there is that if you go out, you have to wait for the car to finish, and then so there's a waste of time. No? And then he kind of develop a idea. So he asked questions to people and about their what are the problems in terms of the car wash business or the car wash process. So that's where he came up that idea, no, that to build a service home service. No, that's the adjacent part. And then he was about to really like buy a lot of equipment right there. So the Gankei Saigon, and that was in late 2019. He was trying to build a several machines that would now start into the home service. No? But of course, we need to test. No? So the discussion was that maybe we can have just one set first and try it out in the market. So test the idea. Now, if really indeed the market is ready of this kind of service, and what will be the essential problems or the kind of problems that you would encounter when you do this kind of service to homeowners. All right, so we kind of thinking along that line. How would this there be really be paying customers for that, or they're just responding to the questions that we send because we are friends or something like that. So kind of try to validate or test first. So what happens is that the team bought the first set only. So they were targeting for 5 sets now of equipment so that they can begin really like testing the market or really like servicing the market. But of course, there's a lot of capital needed. No, when you have 5 sets, you need a lot more number of people, and then to do the home service. But good thing though is that they started buying one set of equipment, and then the pandemic hit, and that's it. That's the end of it all. No? So you cannot go around and then service those cars in their own homes because we're not even allowed not to go out, so in the first place. So somehow, although that happened negatively, somehow it prevented them the team no from incurring a lot of cost. So that's the idea there. No? So before really launching a product, we go slow, we start small, but we're already thinking big. No? Thinking big in a process wherein you can actually like capture the market, the entire market. No? So by that home service, you're trying to eliminate the competition. What is your competition there? The existing car wash no business. So that's the idea. No? So the design thinking process. Okay, try to remember this. You have discover, design, and deliver, right? So in empathize, so we focus on the empathy. So what are we doing here? We conduct interview as mentioned. So we go around and talk to people. What are their problems? What are their pains in terms of the present process? So I mentioned to you, if I am a car owner, I go to a car wash, and I'm not even make sure that when I go there, I'll be serviced immediately. But because perhaps there are already cars there parking, waiting for them to be serviced as well. So it's about time. So you don't want to be stuck in a car wash for how many hours? No, you cannot just afford it, especially if you're so busy. So unless if you have a driver to ask it, go there and something do that. But if you're a car owner, so those are the pays. Sometimes, um, yeah. So that's one of the main problems really in terms of the time. So we will discuss more about proto personas in terms of the process when we empathize. We talk about proto personas in this process we're in. We try to put ourselves in the position of a not a real person, but somebody who would represent the person. Like we talk about the car cleaning or the car wash. So we might consider, for example, a car owner, like male, for example, 35 years old, 40 years old. And then, of course, most car owners already up there. So kind of a busy person. So there's the personality so involved in there. So we try to put ourselves. So what are their, for example, frustrations? So when they go to that car wash, they don't get immediately serviced, diba? So they don't immediately service because there are still people waiting there to be serviced as well. So we put our position or ourselves into that kind of position. So we kind of look into this, and when we do this, we kind of interview. So it's good to have this done, this activity done in real person, or right now through online. So you will do surveys. Now that's why we ask people to go out from the classroom. So there's this book in Lean Startup that go out from the classroom and then um, check out shall we say, those potential end users that you are targeting. Now, in case of the car wash business, so you might want to talk and really identify their personal problems, their problems in terms of getting service. So as more data comes in, no, so that's where now you really begin to understand the situations of the car owners, especially you guys as students, no, who are trying to build a business. So you will have a strong understanding now the pain points, no, the pain points of the customers. So um, you have a very good set data of data. You'll only have a good data if you've interviewed. We always say this 100 people know about their so you build a strong set of data that you can base upon how to do the adjacent process and building a prototype. So that's where the design thinking process comes in. You know? So it's not just about, yeah, well, I want to do service. No? So, but then without better understanding the market, you may have some problems. So the importance of this is that you get so much data that you end up really delivering a brand or a product that is can be desirable as possible, no, for those consumers consuming project. Right. So we'll talk more about the journey map, but I want you to really focus on in terms of putting yourself into the end consumers and consumers position, consumer shoes, shall we say? Um, yeah. So we need to ask, interview, right? So that's how we do, no, supposedly. And then when we go to the define, that's where you actually like improve on the process we're in. We may be able to really capture, the real problems of the consumer. Now there's this tool. It's just a tool. No, so we're trying to understand and give you some examples about the tools that we use in the design thinking. And this is one popular thing. No, how might we statements in terms of defining the problem. So okay, and defining the problem at the same time, we may be able to also get a the benefit. No? So we're not really thinking about the solution yet, but we would look into how we'll be able to define the statement. We'll have some more examples here. So, okay, I think we can have some video of this now.
How might we statements help us design solutions with a human-centered focus? It is a great way to frame up our design challenges so that our solutions are addressing the right problems. The how might we statement should address the intended action, the primary user, and the desired effect. A recommended format for this sentence would be how might we and describe the intended action, for and describe the primary user, and ending with so that to describe the desired outcome. As an example, let's say in our research we discovered that kids love buying ice cream from a truck, but on a hot day they have trouble bringing it back to their families without it spilling. A good how might we statement in this instance would be, how might we redesign the ice cream buying experience for kids so that it is more portable and less messy? Check that the statements are not too narrow and prescriptive. A good how might we statement allows for a variety of solutions. For example, how might we design a cone to eat ice cream without dripping is too prescriptive. Make sure the statements are not too broad. A good how might we statement allows the solution to have a clear focus. For example, how might we reimagine dessert is too broad and does not force the solution to have the desired effect for the user. Don't worry about it taking too long. You'll need a couple of iterations to get it right.
All right. So I hope you got that, but to expound more about the how might we, these are some of the another examples, no, or definitions that somehow would help you better understand the how might we statement. So how refers to assuming that the solution exists. No? How, taon, no? So provides the creative confidence, no, in terms of like, is there a possibility? No, so in terms of the might, we're looking for what's possible out there. So they may not work, or they may work or not work. The intent is really to understand and learn, you know, from it. And then we build on each other's ideas. That means that we are really trying to find solutions to the given problem as collaboratively, helpfully with one another to solve those problems that we want to address. No? So it's mentioned already earlier in the video that we need to avoid questions that are just too big or abstract, but also avoid questions which are too specific or narrow. Just may just be broad enough, no, not to limit to speak to a specific um, solutions, or that we try to provide the solutions already. So how do we balance this, which is not too big and not too really narrow? Okay. So this one example for the how might we statement. So the Department for International Development leads the UK's work to end extreme poverty. So poverty is the question here. So there's what how might we statement here? How might we tackle world poverty? So what is your take on this? Is this narrow, or is this too broad, or is that enough? So which part is this? You can drop your question, your answer there in the comment section. How might we tackle world poverty? Okay, so it's think for this specific example, this is too broad, no, just too broad. Um, Too broad. World poverty is just so many problems in terms of poverty. So many people experience poverty, and just so big that we may not be able to find a solution right there and then. The second statement is that how might charity support parents in poverty to teach kids to read? So how might charities, so meaning to say specifically the we here changes to charities. And so how might charities support parents in poverty to teach kids to read? It's like suggesting already for a solution, such that you would think that in order for the parents to get out from poverty, you need to teach kids how to read. So there's prescription already on what to do. So this already predefining what the solution is. So between this, if we try to balance this, the other option would be how might parents in low-income communities ensure children thrive? So, so this in this way, it's not too broad, it's not too specific, but there can be many possibilities in terms of how we can help communities, no? That help communities that the children there would thrive. So there's no specific solutions yet identified. So there's no solution in this remark. That's why it's a good how might we example. So how might parents in low-income communities ensure children thrive? So this is one example. The other one is that how how do we structure the how might we? So earlier in the video, this was mentioned as well. How might we engaging verb, user, process, benefit? So we specifically focus on the user and the process that is involved, and now the benefit. So that's one of the things that we need to look into when defining this how might we statement. All right. So as an example, we have how might we inspire new mothers to breastfeed for their healthier babies. So basically, this is one of the things that we can consider as a very good statement, no? Because now we have new mothers here as our user in the process to breastfeed, and then for the impact now or the benefit that it gets is that we have health for healthier babies. So this is a very good example of how might we statement. No? So HMW and then the actions taking place that is inspire, and then the user, the end user, and then the process, and then the impact or the benefit, no, to the user. So this is a very good example of how might we statement. Another one is that how might we enable Filipino students to learn remotely for a well-prepared workforce? So take note of this example. The if you compare both, no, so the second statement actually is much more uh, n- not narrow but broader, no, compared to the first example. So if we try to reference or benchmark how might how might we statements we gonna follow, I think we need to be able to really understand that the second sentence would provide us a better how might we statement. So it's not too specific enough, but it's broader, no? Because in the first statement, so the solution really is being given there already, no? So to have a healthy babies, you need to breastfeed them. So maybe, yeah, so that is really really right. The solution is right there and then, no? So I think for but the fact as well is that to have healthy babies, especially for new mothers, new babies, newborn babies, there's no other way to be fed them is like I do believe into the breastfeeding now, although women do this, no? But that's how we can only do that. But on the second statement, that is not too specific, and then this is somehow the ideal example for the how might we statement. So really, there is a how might we statement builder that we want to to put to apply. No? So there's this action, subject, outcome. No? So redesign, encourage. So we can actually do this. No? So we can use this statement builder, and then I will make this available to everyone. I think this is already in the platform in the LMS. All right. So we go to the date process. No? So when we interviewed already, we have empathy, we have lots of data, and then we define and we've created a how might we statement that is not too specific and not broad enough, not too broad, no, for us to consider. That's where the ideation process comes in. No? So usually students or engineers immediately go to the ideation, no, without really the start of the process, or most of us do, is that in the design process, we always start with adjacent immediately. But the thing is that we need to look into the empathy and the define aspect or process. That's the part wherein we get very good product design or service later on. So adjacent process. So how do we do that? So like for example, in the team, of course, we do several adjacent process. So like um, traditionally we sit down all together, so we do the thinking process where we get the feedback from everyone, so if this is gonna be a workshop, then you will be forced to like, okay, what is your idea for this particular, how do we solve this problem, in terms of you go back to the statement of how might we, so in terms of the how might we enable Filipino students to learn remotely for a well-prepared workforce. So that's where the addition process comes in, and then that's the start, the how might we statement, and then we generate plenty of ideas from every member of the startup team. So maybe you can also invite others to help you out in terms of the adjacent process. And there are also several ways not to do adjacent process, right? And then when you already kind of what we do before is that you have different ideas now. We can generate like 20 ideas. And then the next process would be like we do some markings. So like, I like this idea. So each one, if you are 10 people there in the team, then you would vote, in terms of which ideas do you think would be the topmost solution. So each of you will select, okay, this idea here, this is my number one, number one, number one, number one. In every person will do the number one. Then which idea? Then you review it again. So if this is a workshop, the next idea or the top two idea you consider as the solution that you would want to develop on. So you keep on voting. You keep on voting until you exhaust everything, and then you try to rank them. And you get the ranking based on, well, this is the most voted solution. Then that's where you begin. No? Well, you can consider the top three, right? Sorry, sorry about that. So you can consider the top three. No? So for example, or the top one. And that's where you begin prototyping, building your prototype. So if you have a prototype, that would actually help you out in terms of doing the task. No? So these prototypes comes from different forms. Like for example, on this, I know, so you draw like there are even prototypes that made like through cardboards, papers. No? So you can have that. So you can do prototype interactions as well. Like for example here, how do you want to build a very nice building or a classroom, colorful classroom. So you see, yeah. So you build something like this. Now, if you're into the um, like for example, if you're into the mobile app, no, so this one can be a thing for you, all right? So there are so kind of really before redesigning the software, no, invest the user interface, kind of try to like, okay, in the main menu, what would the mobile app look like in the main menu, and that's it, no? So you will look into that and then study it carefully and then said, all right, so that's the main menu. And then when you click this part of the main menu, what will happen next? So when you click this, another menu goes out, and then you will look into that's the second portion, the registration portion. So that's kind of the design process. No? So that makes you like try to consider everything. No? And then before you transform that really to the mobile app that you're trying to build, right? So web mobile apps. And then the payment comes in. So what would be the process? No, so it's like this. You know the movies, like the Pixar movies or even so. You notice that the behind the scenes, you see a lot of drawings right on the board. No, because before really they come up with the animation. No? So it's somehow the same, no, in that kind of process, the prototype. Okay, so you kind of look into really considered everything, no, in your right before your face. No? So you have an idea already. So what's happening or what's going on. So you test it. You go outside and then present your prototype to your prospective users or consumers, and then you would say, what do you think about this? Will help? Will this help solve your problem? No, so will this be able like to kind of address your problems already? No, so you have to test it. You go out. So maybe the same persons that you ask for the interview during the interview in terms of their customer pains. Then you go back to them and then say, hey, can I ask you about, I was trying to think about your problem with regards to this specific product, and then now I'm trying to introduce this product, redesigned product. Now, it's just a prototype. It's just nothing new, but you just want to build, no, so that hey, that's great. No, if that was the the other person would respond, that's cool. Like, yeah, I think you've got it right. No, the problem that I wanted to, like, for many people to solve it. No, so in reality, there are so many problems in the world, no, that are waiting to be solved, and I think it's up to us to really kind of really put ourselves into that so that we will be able to address the solution. So there are a lot of business opportunities still out there that we can actually um, still capture, you know, still be able to do something about it and then make it as a business. And this is an ongoing process, not testing. So you build already a product. So you have the prototype, the paper prototype, and then you tried working on the software already. Now you have the user interface, and then you work on the user interface, and now you kind of work with those guys, and then the customers, and then continue on learning. Like you have already the software, and you test it again. You test it again before really um, launching it big. No, so you test it. So for example, before scaling up, I think it's good to like test the market first here in Butuan. If it's gonna be like if there are people who are willing to pay for your service or product, and that's the time you really like go out and then serve. No? So the market or the other the potential customers that you have. It's very important to do that process. No? So for us to be able to really produce a um, product that is desirable. No? So you should not be offended no when customers or end users, the one you will interview that, ay bati man na no, so when you may have to ask questions, so don't be offended because that's part of the process. And you would think, saan din ako ni, how can I make this beautiful? No, you said it's not even good. No, the design is not even good. What do you think are the features you would want so that this becomes a good product? So that's where the interview, the constant like asking questions. No? So maybe in the latter part, if I will be able to build this product that you like me to design, would you be willing to pay? So that's the question, right? At the end of it all, you need to have not a user, but a paying customer. All right? So I hope you've learned a lot of these things that I want to discuss for today. No? So we'll continue to discuss this and succeeding topic that we have. So for now, thank you for listening. So if you have comments, suggestions, feel free to drop them here in the comment section. And I want everybody to who are listening to this to please look into and to the comment section drop your messages na concern. All right. Thank you very much and have a good day, everyone. Thank you. All right. Bye for now.